the last time you saw your dad, you were what, 2?
Not even.
And so, really, this is like the first time you're meeting your father.
Right.
And it's like, here's some grass, here's a little stick.
There
like,
he is.
That's not how a person would ever imagine that they're going to meet their loved one.
Right.
Even if they've passed on.
Right.
So I think you're doing the right thing by giving him the placard, I think is what it's called, tombstone.
Something like that.
So that he has, his defined place.
Right.
And then you have that defined place too. This is where I
now
can go when I want to talk
right.
with him. Because you said you had left the journal at home that day too, I believe.
Or no? Oh no, I had to go back and get it. So
okay,
I came here and I was like, I had that feeling that I should just go get the journal. So I went to my house to go get it and then went to
That's right.
Yeah, to the cemetery.
Okay. Have you added anything into that journal since you wrote what you had written in it?
Not about my dad, no.
No.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Even still, like, I know some of the stuff I put, it was like I had to let go of anything that I was holding on about my dad, like any, unforgiveness or like resentment, anything. Just let it out there. But if I'm actually still holding on to anything, I'm really not sure.
Okay.
I know unforgiveness was huge. But like I said, I feel like I let that go. But I don't know. I don't know what else I would feel, because it's not like we had any real interaction. He didn't do anything to me. You know what I mean? Except leave. By way of suicide. So like that was really it to me. Yeah. I mean, the stuff he did behind the scenes with my mom and my grandma, that's different. But I didn't. That's all like of stuff that I heard. Like I didn't see any of that stuff. I didn't experience any of that stuff. So it's like, obviously, though I'm not happy about that stuff, it's like,
right.
I don't know if I could hold any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't know how to feel about.
Like it's hard to know how to feel or what to feel.
Right.
Because that happening is what created you, but it hasn't necessarily, it has affected you, but it wasn't something done to you.
Right.
In the same sense as.
Right. Like I don't have to heal from that stuff that they went through. You know what I mean? They do. But I don't have to heal from that. So it's like, I feel for them that they had to go through it, but as far as just me personally and my feelings towards my dad, I don't feel that. I didn't have any interaction that I did have. Obviously, I don't remember.
Right.
I was a baby, so I don't know. Like I don't know if I would be holding on to anything else outside of unforgiveness.
That's a good point.
It's weird.
Even being so young, and not being able to really remember, how much time did you spend with him and how much of a relationship did you have with him. So you're, and I think I've said this before, kind of grieving the loss of someone that you really never knew.
Right.
And now you're, as an adult, trying to get some closure, get some answers maybe, if that's even a possibility, and trying now to build a relationship with someone, as an adult.
Right.
And I know for you that is not easy.
What's that?
Trying to have a relationship with someone that you've never really known. And what information you have heard about him hasn't all been good.
Right.
And so you didn't have an opportunity to get to know him yourself, separate from, what other people have said.
I guess I'm grateful that I didn't get to experience those bad things that I did hear about him. You know what I mean? So now it's like, when I do see him, there's nothing, I can't have any anger towards him about what he's doing to my mom or what he's doing to my grandma, my aunt, or anything like that. It's just like, I just say what I'm going to say, and that is the end of that,
Yeah, because it's about what you need to heal and what you have to let go of. And you can ask the questions, but you may not get those answers.
Right.
You know. And you have to think it must have been that bad for him, I'm assuming, that he took that way out, even though he had you
Right.
in his life. So to me, that says his pain was greater than his love for you. And that's a sad thing to think.
But the thing is like with that, it's like because and what I was dealing with, when I had scared myself thinking of the suicidal thoughts that I had my daughter by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that I didn't love her, but the pain was so severe that I was feeling. It was just like, you know what I mean? Like, it sucks, but it was kind of like she was back burner to that. Like, I couldn't see past the pain that I was in. I couldn't see out of that at that point.
Yeah.
And I know what I was dealing with isn't anywhere close to what he was dealing with. So I can imagine he went all the way because his pain was so bad.
Yeah.
And I don't, before experiencing that for myself, I was mad. I'm like, you spent a whole year, not even 2 years, before you took yourself out. You did the absolute most to get me here. And then, but then when I had those thoughts myself, it put it into perspective again. And I know I wasn't dealing with all the stuff that he was.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I can get where he was. And that kind of let go of the anger and, you know, started, I guess, build forgiveness from there.
Mm-hmm.
But it sucks that a child can't change that, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, I can't say I love my daughter any less because I was thinking those thoughts. Like, I still loved her, but it was like the pain was so bad. It was just like, how can I even be a mom when I'm feeling this pain? So I might as well. You know what I mean? You start just going this downward spiral,
right.
And before you know it, obviously not me, but you're ready to take yourself out. You do it. You know.
And that's a good point. You know, that it's not about not loving or not loving enough, but it's about the pain being so much greater than anything else in that moment or at that time.
But I had my dad's example to scare me into making sure I got help to get out of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was the difference. He didn't have an example like that. So his ticket out was taking himself out. That was it.
Maybe that's the lesson he left you.
You know?
You know, in tragic situations, it's so hard sometimes to see that, like, sometimes there can be a positive in that. Not that that happened, but what's come from that.
Right.
Maybe in some way that's because of what he had gone through, helped you to not go through the same thing. What are you thinking right now?
Just grateful that I knew how it made me feel and not wanting to put my daughter through that. Because it would have just been the same cycle for her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She did, well, similar cycle. But having just the thoughts, not even actually coming up with a plan. Like, I started thinking about how I would go about it, and just that alone, I was like, what the heck is, like, I've gotten to the point of thinking about taking my life. Like, how did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tried to get, what's it called? Like, when they keep you in the hospital, like, when they make you stay for like psych or something. Yeah, committed. Yeah. Yes. I was trying to get that because I just felt like I had no other choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that happened twice. they didn't keep me either time because I didn't actually have a plan. You know, I wasn't actually harming myself, which I it's a whole nother I feel a whole nother way towards that, because it's like if someone's seeking help and they're telling you they're afraid of them taking their lives, that should be enough. Forget if they actually have a written plan or if they actually attempted. Because I didn't actually attempt or have actual plan, they didn't seek it as that in serious.
I was just going to ask you how you felt about that, knowing how bad that felt for you, even if it's, you know, not there's not a plan in place, or someone else's situation might seem like more severe to them. This was the worst you had ever experienced in your lifetime. And so like you're reaching out for help and then basically being told you don't need it.
Right. I feel like they suck. I feel like the way the whole system is set up, it sucks. Because though it didn't seem that serious to them, why would you wait until I actually do try and fail for you to say like, okay, great, let me get her somehow. Let me, you know what I mean? Granted, they gave me a list of like outpatient places to reach out to, but I told them I wanted to stay. Like, I don't keep me here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what, just keep me here. But I feel like I wanted to lie after that and be like, you know what? I got a plan, make something up. I have tried, failed, you know, just for them to keep me.
Right, and it shouldn't have to be that way.
It shouldn't have to be that way. I was really upset about it, like, really mad.
And especially, you know, a lot of people need to be in the hospital and don't want to. Here you are wanting to be in there because you know you needed it. And,
right.
And, you know, and they wouldn't.
Like, oh, discharge papers. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. It was a crazy time.
Yeah.
Like, it was a lot. And even when I did start therapy at first, it was like, it eased my mind. It would start to like ease my mind, and I would start to feel better, and then I would start to realize all the work that I needed to do. So it was like I would go a little bit forward, figure out all the work that I need to do, go back, then start working on that stuff, realize more stuff that I have to work on. It was just like a cycle like that for a while, and I was just like, yo, like, this is draining. But when I finally started to, you know, put those pieces together and do that work, I finally noticed like I was consistently getting out of it and not working my way backwards just to take a couple steps and working my way backwards again. So yeah, it definitely ended up being really good, but it started off really rough.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, you know, that it does take time to work through things. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen just miraculously. It takes work, you know, and each person's, you know, work is different, you know, in what they need and what you needed at that time. Was, you know, you, I think, had to learn what you needed.
Right.
You know, it's not like someone can say, here's how to fix this, you know.
And that's kind of what I was thinking that would happen.
Yeah.
Like, you know, let me run my mouth for a little bit, give you all the confusion that I have in my brain, and you're like, here's the problem, here's to fix it, you're good. Yeah. And it was not like that at all.
That's, you know, that is the misconception about therapy in general, is that the therapist is going to
fix it for you
and make it all go away and, you know, solve your problems. But it's about having that person there to help you through the process, helping you to figure out what it is that you need and how best to help yourself through that, you know. And it's a lot about like that inner exploration, figuring out, and for you, you know, you found God, and that was what, you know, has helped you a lot in your journey. And, you know, sometimes you have to be in your worst place to realize what I need in this moment. And I'm sure it was really hard for you to have this, you know, to reach out and go to the hospital and say, I need help. Yeah. You know, that's not an easy thing to do. It's very brave to be able to do that. You know, it's one thing that we have to admit to ourselves we need help. It's another to have to actually ask for it. You know, that can be a very scary thing.
I think what was more scary than that was just the thoughts that I was having.
Yeah.
So it was either like go through with those thoughts that I was having or get my behind in some help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
that was definitely the less scary of the two.
Yeah, definitely.
So though it was definitely secondary to
Yeah.
the thoughts that I was having, and I never thought I would get there.
That's the thing too. When you think about, you know, your life up to that point, you never would have thought you would have.
Not ever.
Yeah.
Like even once I did, I'm like, how? Like, am I bugging right now? How did I even get?
How did I get here?
To this point? But thinking of the thoughts leading up to that, it was just like, what is my purpose here? Why am I here? I feel like I'm just existing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sad all the time. I get irritable fast. Like, and just the thoughts that I would have leading up to that, and then because I didn't have the answers to the thoughts that I was having, it was like, yo, I'm just exist. Like, this is a miserable life that I'm living. Like, this is, you know, and then that started to spiral out of control, and you know.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it because, you know, depression looks so differently on different people. And it's not just, you know, sadness and tears and, you know, not wanting to go to work one day or, you know, hating your life. There's so much more to it than that. It's so much, there's so much depth to it.
Right.
Go ahead.
Mine, I kind of just always wanted to be in my room. I always wanted to be like in the dark. I was irritable easily. I didn't want to really do too much of anything really. I don't know. I just was not genuinely happy. I was far from happy. And I was confused. I was lost. Like there was a lot going on, and because I didn't know what to do to get out of that, it was just like I didn't even know where to start. I'm like, there's so much going on now, and then also leading up to this, I was just, you know, thinking about my dad. I'm like, I really don't know who I am, and you know, just everything. It was just like, yo, I'm gonna drive myself freaking nuts.
Yeah.
You know.
So, what do you say to a person who might be going through some of that now?
What the
depression and, you know, even if they're having suicidal thoughts or feeling lost or they're isolated, and what do you say to them?
Really, before even trying to seek help, you got to be tired of being tired, and actually want different for yourself. If you're not there and you just are okay being in your sadness, it is not going to change.
That's true.
You know, if you're just okay with throwing yourself a pity party every day with being how you are, then you'll remain that way. But if you're tired of being in that place and you're like, listen, something has to give, great, perfect, you're in the right spot. Go find some help. Therapy and God. Those are your two helps.
In those moments before you reached out for help, what do you think you needed at that time? When you were in that dark despair, you know, time in your life, what did you need?
Honestly, if I had a relationship with God at that point, I wouldn't have gotten that far.
Okay.
But because of all the thoughts that I was having that was speaking against who God says I am, I didn't have those answers that God's given me now. So I wouldn't have got that far. But because of my uncertainty with everything in my life, I allowed myself to dig this dark hole, and I was just sitting in it. Therapy, is, like I said, I guess what I had to turn to for that immediate help, because I wasn't even thinking about prayer or anything like that. Like, to me, it was just like, I don't even feel like praying. And now I know I could have still just sat with God in that moment, but I wasn't thinking about any of that. Yeah, like, to me, it was just like, yo, something has to happen right this very second, or my suicidal thoughts are going to get worse. And what I don't want to do is what the hospital wants me to do is come up with a plan now, you know, or start acting on it, like
right. Before you can even get the help you
before
need.
I can get the help.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get there. Just having the thought in my mind alone was like alarming to me. Like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, I think outside of that would have been it. Like, if I had a relationship with God, then I wouldn't have got that far. If not, since I didn't, therapy was really it. Like, I don't know what else, because my mom would try to help me, you know, speak life into me. I wasn't here. It doesn't matter how many times you hear something good. If you don't believe it within yourself,
right.
it's not, it's going in one ear and out the other. Like, it doesn't help you necessarily. Like, okay, yeah, it's nice to hear, but if you don't believe it yourself, it just kind of sits at the surface.
Yeah.
No, so I don't think anything else would have genuinely helped except me doing the work myself. You know, having the therapy give me tools of how to handle certain things, or you know, make sense of the gunk that was going on in my mind. I don't think anything else would have.
Yeah. What was the thing or things that brought you to that deep dark place? Everything. Just all
Yeah,
of it.
like
It's too much.
I think before, when I was younger, I was always trying to fit myself into the friend groups that I had. So I was trying to mold myself into what I thought that my friends wanted. So this friend group, whatever, however they were, I was trying to mold to what I think that they wanted. The same thing with the friends over here. And I didn't have my own true identity. I was just being molded into whatever I felt like everybody around me wanted. So that started it, and I didn't even realize it then. I just thought that that was who I was.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that started it, and then I realized maybe, I don't know, I started questioning who I was not too long before I found out about my bio dad. Not anything heavy, but just like, okay, my friends around me, like, they kind of know what they want in life, and they kind of know what they want to be when they grow up, and I'm not really sure. So like those kind of questions, not anything too heavy, but just wondering like, okay, well, I'm wondering when that's gonna kick in for me, because I got nothing.
Okay.
But then when I found out about my dad, it really took me back. I'm like, perfect. Even what I thought I kind of sort of knew, I didn't know. You know what I mean? So that took me back a lot further. And then I got into that long relationship with my ex. Um, Same thing, I guess, trying to, I was being me after I got comfortable enough, but relationship started off with me kind of molding to what I thought he wanted. Same thing, that I was doing with friends around. Um, as the years went on, I started to get more comfortable, and I started to be able to be who I thought that I was, at that point. Um, but I never really found out who I truly was. I was always like, my identity was always based on who I was around, not who I was solely.
That's really good insight for you to figure out.
Yeah. So I think with all that combined, and then realizing like all the stuff that I allowed, um, in my life, and with my ex, all the stuff that I was okay with, I'm just like, yo, like, where's the respect for myself? Where's the love for myself? Then that went into a downward spiral, because I'm thinking of all the stuff that, all the reasons and that supported the fact that I didn't love myself. So then that went into a downward spiral. Like, everything, I started picking apart every piece of my life, because I didn't know who I was, I didn't love who I was. So I started picking apart everything, and all that stuff supported that very thing. So took me down and down and down and down and down to
And
the point
then
where it was too much.
and then when you thought you knew who you were, you know, and again, you know, a lot of that based on your friend groups, and then you find out your dad is not who you thought he was, then that just shatters any sense of like who you thought you were at the time, and then it's even more like, well, who am I?
Right.
Where do I come from? Like, what just happened? You know, and it wasn't the answer that you had wanted, you know, because when we're trying to find ourselves, we want the answer, not we don't want something else that's going to make it even more
right.
yeah, make it even more confusing or scary or farther from the truth.
Right.
And so learning who you are is a process. It's about, you know, separating what you think other people see of you. It's about, you know, I'm only this way when I'm around this person. I'm this way when I'm around this person. Like it's a process in undoing, and then also figuring out, like, at the core, who am I and how do I get in touch with her, and what, you know, what makes me me. And it's an interesting process when you start delving inward and learning, like, oh, this is who I am. And it's not based on anyone else. It's not to please anyone else. It's just who I am at the core. And that can be very exciting.
Yeah, because my problem was I didn't know how to be alone. Whether it was relationship or friendship, I didn't know how to be by myself. And when God separated me from everything last year, like literally everybody and everything, just complete by myself.
Yeah.
And that's when he could start doing the work in me and showing me who I am. And I'm like, wow, like all I needed to do was just separate and be alone for 15 seconds. I couldn't be alone for 15 seconds without feeling like I'm going to go crazy and needed somebody else to be with me.
Yeah.
You know, now it's just like, you know, like I'm okay with being by myself. I'm okay with who I am. And though I still have a lot of work to do, I've came a long way from, you know, the depressed, always needing someone else's validation, you know, for who I am, and everybody else to be okay with how I am and needing to be liked by everybody else, and you know, all that stuff, because it's draining. It's really draining trying to please everyone around you. It's draining. But I didn't realize that. Like, again, that was who I was. That's who I thought. That, you know, that's just me. That's just my personality. Everybody has to like me. And it's like, no. Like, everybody's not supposed to like you. You know, if you're being who you are, everyone's not going to like you. But because I was trying to be who I thought everyone wanted, then yeah, of course it's going to be easy for everyone to think that they like me.
And when we, at our core, like who we are and especially love who we are, we don't necessarily need that validation from other people.
Right.
Or relationships or whatever.
Right. I was far from understanding that. Far. Like I said, I was just all that. I guess that was my way of making sense of who I was. You know, without actually knowing, like, what I did, the crappy pieces that I did have, I was just trying to make sense of it, and I guess that was my way of making sense of who I was. You know, just saying that's who I am. You know.
So, what have you learned about yourself in this, you know, journey inward?
That I can't do anything without God. That who He says I am is who I am, how He sees me, and I don't need anything that goes against that. I have to cancel out. I'm okay being by myself. I don't need to be liked by everyone. I love who I am. God loves who I am, and that's enough. You know, anything outside of that is just like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm sorry.
That's awesome.
I'm okay with, well, I think I've always been okay with feeling Always been super sensitive. But now I'm okay with like doing more of the hard stuff, um, to make sure I heal the way I need to and to make sure I continue to grow. I don't want to be stagnant. And though I've came a long way, I'm not done. You know, I still got some stuff, and even stuff that I'm not even sure is still in there. Sure, it's in there. Why? Just because I'm never going to be perfect ever, no matter how much work I do.
None of us are.
You know, ever. So there's definitely still work that needs to be done. There's probably hidden stuff in there that I'm sure if I talk enough, it'll come up. Like, whoa, I thought
Where did that come from?
Right. So I'm far from done, but I'm proud of the work that I have done because I never thought that I would have gotten here. Even a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would be where I am. I was even kind of in a dark place then. Not as dark as I was, you know, years ago, but still just kind of like teeter-tottering back and forth between the dark and the light, you know, just kind of walking that thin line. I want to find that stuff that's like deep in there that I don't know, whether it's, you know, hurt, pain, unforgiveness, or anything negative, anything that is gonna hold me back from who God wants me to be or who God sees me to be. I want that to come out. It's harder when it's hidden because I don't know that it's there, but I'm sure it's there. It's easier to talk about the stuff that I already know is there. You know what I mean? But that stuff that I deal with or have a reminder of, that stuff is easy. But like, there's always going to be stuff that's deep rooted in there that I thought that either is done or I buried to not deal with at that time, whatever the case.
And you will. You'll find it as you continue to get to know yourself and, you know, have that time to like self-reflect. And I think too, the more that you like visit with your dad or journal about that, because, you know, that little girl lost her dad, and that's something she's never going to get back.
Right.
And so there may be a lot of pain. You know, as an adult, you can understand, you know, okay, this is what's happened and this is how I have to deal with it. But that little girl in you, you know, she may be grieving in a different way. The pain, the loss, the abandonment, any of that, which subconsciously may be why you clung on to so many relationship after relationship after relationship, is needing that love that you maybe didn't feel you had growing up. So there could be some of that still kind of lingering.
Yeah. I don't know how to, like, for the little girl, because I was so young, it's like, I don't know how that baby would have felt. Would she have noticed that her dad is no longer there? Or is it just kind of like, I used to see this person and now I don't? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be different if I remember the years. Like, let's say he passed when I was like 8 or 9. I would remember sometimes, right, and be able to grieve that. But because I was so young, I don't, like, is my brain even developed enough to have that memory at that point of him being my dad and not seeing him anymore? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that connection.
No, but there's a I think a part of you that recognized you were missing something as you grew up. Like, you may not have realized, I had this and I lost it. More so, as you're growing up, you're realizing I'm missing something.
That's accurate, because I definitely felt like that.
I don't have, and whether it's you knew consciously, like, I don't have my father in my life, or you know, it's very, I think visceral might be the word. Like, on a different level of connection. Like, knowing it's missing without knowing, if that makes sense.
No, I agree with that because I did feel like something was off, or I couldn't make a connection. Like, and definitely my dad was not even anywhere close in my mind.
Yeah.
But I definitely felt like something was off. Like, as the older I got, I'm like, something is just not, it's off. Like, and it, like I said before, it's not anything that my dad did, or my mom did, or anything. Like, he didn't make me feel weird. He didn't treat me different. It was nothing like that, but something, it just didn't feel right. Something was off. And because I had nothing to go off of to even cling that feeling to, it just was like, I'm just bugging. That's kind of what I always resorted back to. Like, I'm just bugging. Like, why am I even feeling this way? Like, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Nobody said anything. Nobody did anything off to make me feel weird. You know, my brothers and sisters, they didn't even know. You know what I mean? I didn't even know. So, like, nobody did or said anything, but I did have that feeling, absolutely. I just didn't know why I was having that feeling. So I kind of just kicked it to the side, like, I'm bugging out, you know. But I definitely felt that.
You know, and that 2-year-old, or even before, you know, your father passed, had at least met him, at least known him at some point. So my guess would be there was some connection there, some intuition, some something. And so when he was no longer in your life, you felt that without even knowing
what I was feeling,
what you were feeling.
Right. Because I did start to cling to relationships and feel like I needed to have somebody love me, even if I didn't feel that same way. To know that someone felt that way about me is what I kept clinging to. Like, I didn't even need to feel that way back. It was just like I was being super selfish of just like, I need you to love me. You know, forget how I feel about you. That's irrelevant. Like, I just need you to love me.
Because we don't know necessarily, you know, what's going on in a 2-year-old's mind. I mean, to some degree, of course, but they can't articulate that, and so it will play out in different ways.
Right. You know. That's true. Like, I wonder if I've ever, like, not too long after he was gone, if I, like, ever acted out in a way. You know, I've never asked those questions because I never thought about it.
Yeah,
like,
and I'm sure you did.
Yeah, you know, just acted out weird in a way, or did something to show how I was feeling because I couldn't verbalize it.
Right,
you
exactly.
know? I don't know.
Because when you're young and you see these people, that's your whole world.
Right.
And that's all you really see, and then that's no longer there. So you don't know how to, you know, process
make sense of that. Right.
Well, actually make sense is a better way to put it, yes. Is that a question you would want to ask your mom or grandma?
Actually, yeah, I will.
You know, how was I as a kid?
Right.
After this happened?
Did I act out? Was I weird? Did I not eat the same way? Like, you know, weird things.
Was there any, you know, change in your behavior?
It's a good question. I never thought of that. Like, not once. I just figured because I was so young and that was it. Like, I didn't feel a way. Like, I'm not even, I didn't think anything deeper into it, but that's a really good question. And I will definitely ask that.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious.
And that might be your next homework assignment.
Yeah. Right.
to have that conversation, you know, with your parent, or with your mom and your grandma.
Right. Even my dad too, because he's been there since I was 2.
You're right.
So ask like he, you know.
Yeah.
Just to see what everybody says.
You know, you're coming from a place of like, I'm trying to understand me as a person and how certain events and things that happened in my life affected me. So I want to be able to understand who I was then, because you don't know who you were then.
Right.
And you're trying to figure out who you are now. So I think that would be helpful to understand, like, and get to know her, that little girl, from your viewpoint as an adult.
Right.
You know, what was it like for her growing up? And because you remember the teenager, you remember the young adult, you know who you are now, and you have all of that. But, you know, who were you when you were 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, when you were younger? And looking at pictures, you know, do you even like relate to that person? Like, who was she at that time?
Right.
You know, it's really interesting when you look back at your pictures, and I've done it as well. Like, who, like, what was I thinking at that time, or who was I in that moment? And, you know, do I even feel a connection to that younger part of me that has, you know, gone through so much and brought me to this point in my life? So it might be helpful to ask those questions.
Yeah, I definitely want to know. Curious.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy the stuff you don't think about. Like, I would have never thought to, how was I after my dad passed? Like, as that young baby, how would, like, I would have never thought past that. It's crazy. Like, you would think certain things, you're just like, oh, I wonder, but that never crossed my mind, not once.
Yeah.
After all these years, not once.
And that's part of this process,
Right.
is unlayering of the different aspects of, you know, everything you've gone through, you know. And the more work that we do, the more we'll be able to peel back, like, oh, well, let's look at this, you know, because we haven't you know, explored that.
Right.
And let's look at this and how we explore that. And even as much as, you know, your role as a mom, you know, how different you were then than you are now, and just the transformation in you as a person, you know, over all of these years, getting to know, like, and understand, oh, this is who I was then, and that's what shaped me to who I am now in some ways.
I know I have to forgive the mom that I was when Jordan first got here. I need to work on that for sure.
Oh, that'll be an avenue that we will surely go down.
Yes. For
I'm
sure.
making note of that.
That's my phone. Other one.
But also looking at it from, when you think about, and I'll be highlighting that. Definitely be working. That might be a couple sessions.
Yeah.
Is, you know, I think the understanding of how that affected you, losing your father at that time, is different than maybe how it's affecting you now or throughout your life. It may have changed your perception, especially when you found out. But understanding maybe, like, your process, like your, you know, toddlerhood to, like, you know, young kid to, like, youth to, like, adolescent, all of that contributed to your own parenting styles, your thoughts, your beliefs, you know, the relationships you had or lack thereof. All of that contributes to the mom you were. And so when we talk about forgiveness of yourself, some of it is, let's understand how I got to that point, because I was in this mindset at that time, and why I was that person might make it easier for you to forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Than looking at it from this perspective, going, oh, but I did this, or I said that, or I didn't know that, or, well, yeah, you're judging it from this vantage point, but you have to look at it from how she got there, you, at that point,
right,
and what you knew. And then that will explain. I think that might make it easier for you.
I think so too.
To forgive.
I think so too.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a snotty session.
Okay.
Yeah, see your tissues. Yeah, that's gonna be a snotty. Because anytime I think about just really Jordan in general, especially how I am with her as a mom, it definitely gets me emotional, especially from where I was and where I am and where I want to be. Yeah. They're all different.
Absolutely.
And it's progressing, but it's still so very different. And how I was, I definitely want to, like you said, unpack some of that, and how did I get there to help forgive that portion of, you know, because that was her introduction to me as her mom. we're not gonna get there now. I don't
No,
know. No, right.
don't
Bring
wanna
it back.
end in
Bring it
tears.
back. Right. Right.
Yeah, we have, you know, all next session
Okay.
to delve into that.
Mm.
But it's about understanding, I think, before we can forgive.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my
No, I
thoughts.
100% agree.
Yeah.
It's like if forgiving for what exactly? Like,
Yeah.
you know, if you're apologetic about something, what do you can't just say I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry for what?
Mhm.
Like, what are you sorry for, and how do you
Yeah.
plan on changing that? So I agree 100%.